stay tuned. This is Citizen FM. My name is Umoette. 10:08 in the city of Abuja. And what a way to start the program. President Muhammad Buhari yesterday flagged off the Kolmani Integrated Development Project, situated in the boundary of Bauchi and Gombe states. The first phase of the project is expected to bring in refined products with a capacity of up to 120,000 barrels per day. The president at the occasion urged the companies and their strategic partners to ensure all lessons from years of experience as an oil-producing nation are utilized to ensure a harmonious relationship with local communities. So what are the lessons learned so far? That's the focus of Insight today. And I have a guest who, perhaps in 2023, if Nigerians say so, may be in a position to implement these lessons. But before we get to him, let's have a little background here. The conflict in the Niger Delta arose in the early 90s over tension between foreign oil corporations and a number of Niger Delta minority ethnic groups who then felt they were exploited. Ethnic and political unrest continued throughout the 1990s, despite the return to democracy and the election of the Obasanjo government in 1999. The struggle for oil wealth has fueled violence between ethnic groups, causing the militarization of nearly the entire region by ethnic militia groups. The Nigerian military and police forces have also been drafted in at different times. That is the story of the Niger Delta. But my guess is the presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore, is also a human rights activist and a pro-democracy campaigner. Thank you for joining us, Omoyele Sowore.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me as well to your show this morning.
All right, we're really grateful because we got to you just a couple of hours ago, and thank you for just making it. But straight up, I'm sure you are aware of the news that officially Nigeria has commenced oil exploration in the northern part of the country, but that really is not the focus. The focus is the president enjoined stakeholders to learn lessons from our experience over the years in the Niger Delta. But generally, before we start, let's have your general reaction to this new phase of oil exploration in the northern part of Nigeria.
Well, for me, it makes feeling, considering that at this time and age, nobody should be celebrating exploration or exploitation of any particular environment in Nigeria. One, oil now has an expiry date, and at the time that Nigeria ought to be engaging in solid energy transition, we are here celebrating the discovery of oil again. Oil has been in Nigeria, oil exploration in Nigeria started in 1956. Nigeria has nothing to show for it. And the rest of the world is no longer dependent on oil as much as it used to be. So there's nothing to celebrate there. That is if it is true that there is solid discovery of oil of any significant quantity and commercial value. That is also something that we have not yet investigated, because I don't see any pipes, I haven't seen any infrastructure around this particular discovery that shows that they can be exploited or explored in commercial quantity yet.
In 2019, the NNPC came out officially to announce to the world that oil has been discovered in commercial quantity, and actually a company has also moved to site, and a lot of work have been going on there. But then that's a story for another day. Now let's get back to the issue, Omoyele. Let's look at our experience over the years in the Niger Delta because of exploration and exploitation of the resources there and all the issues that have come up over the years. And there are many, quite many, and I'm sure you are abreast with a lot of them. But let's look at them one after the other. Let's start from the environmental impact. Everyone is on the same page, so to speak, that yes, the Niger Delta have really, really had a bad deal when it comes to environmental issues as a result of the oil exploration. How bad do you think that has been? And how can we learn from that concept as we look up to Bauchi and Gombe State?
Well, I was born and raised in the Niger Delta region. So I have witnessed firsthand the devastating effects of oil exploration. I grew up beside freshwater lakes, swamps, and discovered that this complete dislocation and devastation of the ecosystem in the region. Fishes have disappeared, and people cannot breathe fresh air in Niger Delta. The farmland of the Niger Delta that promotes sustainable growth has all disappeared altogether. So the environmental impact is well known. It will take another 50 or 100 years to clean up the damage that is done to the environment in the Niger Delta area, particularly, for instance, just the Goni land area, which has been the environmental impact assessment has been done by the United Nations. And the Nigerian government hasn't even started the cleanup yet. They have politicized the cleanup. It has been mired in corruption as usual. And we'll now be celebrating that we're going to another environment with oil exploration in the way that Niger Delta is ruined. And at a time that climate change has become the major sing song of global economies, I think this requires a lot of thought. I know it is a very difficult conversation to have, but I mean conversation to have in the sense that a lot of people still won't accept that oil discovery is not something they should be happy about, because they look at the instant gratification nature of oil discovery. What I'm saying, well, we're in trouble if we don't have any plans in place to first transit from this fossil-dependent economy we're in, and secondly, if we don't consider the impact on the environment over the long term, and thirdly, if we don't understand that oil is going out of business.
All right. If you're just joining us, this is Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Umoette, and my guest is Omoyele Shure, presidential candidate, Africa Action Congress. Now, let's stay with the environment. If Nigerians give the go-ahead, you may be in a position to call the shots from May 29, so to speak. So, in terms of the environment, and from your years of experience in the Niger Delta, what would your government do differently to take care of that issue?
Well, the outline has been put in place by the UN group that came to evaluate environmental damages done in Ogoni land and other.
Oh, okay. I think we lost Moyele Shure there. We'll try and re-establish contact with him. It's still Citizen FM 93.7, and it's Insight. We're looking at the lessons to learn from our experience in the Niger Delta as a result of oil exploration, especially now that oil in commercial quantity have been discovered in the boundaries of Gombe and Bauchi State. Insight will return in a moment. Please don't go away. Thank you for staying tuned. It's still Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. Yes, we've re-established contact with Omoyele Sowore, a presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress. So you can go ahead now.
Yeah, I wanted you to repeat the question so that the listeners can.
I was saying, I was asking that the issue of the environment is very critical, and I'm sure that a lot of Niger Delta people will be interested in what the political presidential candidates have in store for them as far as environmental issues in the Niger Delta are concerned. What is your template? What do you have in mind?
Yes, I started speaking about this, that there's already a template put in there by the United Nations group that came to evaluate the environmental damage that has been done in the Niger Delta region, particularly Ogoni land. And we can just take it from there. What is needed is a very, very stern commitment to those principles, which include cleaning up, compensation, and for me, in addition to that, a serious plan for energy transition so that we can let our environment rest from this very devastating human.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you for staying tuned. It's Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Umoette. And yes, my guest is still on the line. Shall you hear me now? Okay, I think we need to get back to him. It's not, sometimes these things can be very, very challenging when it comes to. Okay, so we have Sowore on the line now. Okay, you can go ahead. We can hear you clean.
Yeah. So it's to develop a mindset and a commitment that would ensure the energy transition that will leave our environment safe and healthy. Because if we don't, we are going to suffer the consequences of newer discovery and exploration of oil. And we'll discover at the point that oil is no longer a commodity that has any commercial value in the international market. And also, where it is so, it's no longer healthy to continue to consume and destroy the earth underneath our feet. So the consequences are already there. I went to the Niger Delta region, particularly Ogoni land, on November the 10th. I went to Kensaruwa's hometown. You know, that is a direct consequence of oil exploration. You know, some people were killed as a result of oil exploration. It's the greatest conspiracy of probably the century between oil companies and a very vicious government under the Abuja to kill Kensaruwa and 8 other of his colleagues. If if you go to the farmlands, I was told that the Ogoni land used to be very fertile and could feed almost the entire southeast region. Uh, there's also still gas underneath the ground, and I'm sure they are being targeted. But people should not forget that even exploration of gas, no matter how sweet it might look, is it's quite destructive. If you engage in fracking, it would lead over time to earthquakes. But here is the advantage: if you engage in agriculture, the cost of a barrel of palm oil today is higher than a barrel of oil. So, and if you grow crops, you engage in crop rotation and other solid environmental and land practices, the earth is better protected, and the persons that will be fed in an agricultural revolution will give us better opportunities than the oil exploration. Ukraine today is one of the largest grain exporter in the world. Even though they're at war, there's an arrangement for them to export their grains to the rest of the world. They are doing better than in Nigeria, that has been exporting and exploring oil since 1956. So the other important part is that whatever resources we have, we need to elect people who can manage these resources, to understand the value of resources, to understand renewable energy, and an energy mix in the future that doesn't create holes underneath our feet and holes also above our head through the ozone layer. I'm talking basically about climate change. So you need those kind of leaders that understand the consequences of our consumptions, and understand the consequences of our lack of taking the right decisions regarding what should be explored and why we should explore anything for that matter. We have mineral resources. We have a lot of things underneath the ground in Nigeria. We have a lot of things above the ground. And the most important thing above the ground that is more lucrative, more commercially viable than oil exploration is the human brain. Is the reason why I want us to focus on education than focusing on exploration of expired resources.
Okay, let's look at the politics of the oil exploration. Over the years, there's been allegations that political leaders get so much from the proceeds of oil, but the communities across the Niger Delta have had very little to show for a lot of these resources over the years. Any panacea towards this?
Well, it has to do with the sharing formula that fulfills the needs of the communities first, that ensure that even practice before we virtually get rid of oil, that those who have made so much from oil are also made to commit to the cleanup of the damages that they have made. And I will pause the kind of destructive exploration of oil that has put us in this way over time. But there must be in place the oil producing region of Nigeria need a pension plan because of when oil goes out of business. I keep saying it. And this applies to wherever we are finding oil now. We must ensure that when it's all over, the people are not left to just die quietly. We're hearing about cancer. We're hearing about acid rain. We're hearing about pollution of land and water in Niger Delta. It's not that we're hearing. We know they're existing. What is the exit plan for oil exploration, and what is the pension plan for the regions where oil has been discovered and is being recklessly explored with abandon right now? That is the next conversation we must have. What is the pension plan for oil-producing regions of Nigeria? How do they survive when there's no more oil? How do they survive if we keep exploring oil? Because they've been shortchanged over the years. The discovery of oil in Nigeria was the beginning of economic crime, and that's why the Niger Delta region looks the way it is now. The people in Niger Delta region are poorer than the companies that are exploring the oil and the cities and countries to which they take our oil. There is no part of Niger Delta region that looks remotely like Amsterdam or London or California, where Chevron is based. I went close to a Chevron housing location in California, and not only do they live very well over there, They even have a plant that measures air quality. Air quality. So they understand the impact of environmental degradation. But why is it that there's no application of their own way of drilling to the way they drill in Niger Delta region? You cannot drill in the Niger Delta region the same way you drill in Texas. There are a lot of environmental plans in place, even though drilling in itself is not fair. When there was a spill, the largest spill by BP in I think in Louisiana in the U.S., BP paid over $60 billion, $60 billion to clean up their act and to settle a lot of criminal and civil cases that emerged from that. Just one spill. Just one spill. Do you know how many spills there are in the Niger Delta region? Have you ever heard an oil company pay, even $100 million to any community where there's oil spill? This is one thing that Showore will implement. Anywhere that the company has ever engaged in oil spillage, one, we will determine who did it. There will be criminal and civil consequences for it, and there will be penalties and compensation to the communities and the environment immediately. Immediately.
Okay. While we are still at that, we're talking about the oil companies in Nigeria. You know that most of the operations are carried out by foreign companies. There seems to be vagueness in terms of operation. No, the accountability is suspect. Most of the time, it's what these companies bring back as returns, and that's what we accept as a country. We are not really in charge of the operations, so that we are not flanked by some of these companies as the allegations go. Do you think we can find any way around this as a government to make sure that there's more accountability in the operations?
Yes, it depends on the government. The government has to disentangle itself from the kind of relationship they have with oil corporations now. It is at this point, it's the oil corporations, especially the international oil corporations, that are controlling the Nigerian government. The Nigerian government must be in charge of regulating the activities of oil corporations, both local and international. And when that happens, with a leadership that understands the power dynamics between these companies and is willing to take them on, you will see an immediate difference. Except that relationship is changed to give the Nigerian government the superiority over oil companies. They will keep, changing the Nigerian government and Nigerian people. For instance, we hear it all the time. I heard from a naval officer, I think he's a Navy commander, FAPA, who said that they are aware of a 10-year-long oil theft from one of Shell's oil production system that they abandoned to oil thieves. You mentioned Shell in particular. Over 10 years, can you imagine how much money has been sucked, how many barrels of oil, or much barrel of oil that's been sucked from that one alone? And when they asked Shell said, well, they don't pay attention to such things. So that's one of the places where there's massive theft of oil happening. And all these oil companies are complicit. Nigeria government officials are complicit. So except you divorce this very horrible, corrupt conspiracy from the government, you can't have the accurate calculation of how much we even export on a daily basis. Because in so many of these platforms, a lot of barrels of, crude bearing badges are not calculated. They don't calculate how many barrels they take on a daily basis because of collusion. We have to restore that. We have to restore, the gauges that should be in all these places. We must ensure that we know which badge entered the Nigerian waters and what they took out of the country. That must be a priority. Before you know it, you will discover very quickly that we are probably exporting over 3 to 4 million barrels of oil on a daily basis, but only getting paid for 900,000 barrels on a daily basis. Then that will increase prosperity in the country. It will ensure that there's accountability. It will restore respect for the environment because we will have excess crude excess revenue to work with, so that we don't keep borrowing when we shouldn't be borrowing. I was at the town hall meeting on Arise TV recently, and I disclosed that oil corporations are owing the Nigerian government $6.4 billion. And, well, some fact checkers said they have paid it down to 2 point something billion. But $2.5 billion is a lot of money.
Huge.
If we have that, why are we borrowing from China? You understand? So, but I'm sure that with a legit government in place, with a government that is fearless, courageous, and exposed, and willing to check these excesses, we can't even call them excesses. They are massive sabotage going on. You will discover that Nigeria will stop borrowing almost immediately. Almost immediately. We'll be able to have an arrangement to repay some of our loans, because the debt to GDP ratio is not the problem. It's the revenue to GDP ratio. That's our problem. We can expand our tax base by ensuring that oil companies are paying promptly, their royalties to government and taxes that they are supposed to pay. And we can add another layer of taxes that is both punitive and would encourage them to behave well, which is say, if you spill or you have any faulty equipment that you have not fixed, these are the penalties, and they are immediate, and we are collecting them and deducting them from our general transaction. And one last thing is for us to have a transparent system of payment of revenues to the Nigerian government. Whatever our percentages are, Nigerian people need to know on a daily basis how much we're making from oil, so that we can track these revenues and ensure that they get to the right owners, which are Nigerian people. I will renationalize the NNPC and ensure that monies that are paid to NNPC goes to the consolidated accounts and not directly to the NNPC, because one of the biggest source of corruption in Nigeria is the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. So yes, and I did a study and discovered that, for instance, the NLNG, that's the liquefied natural gas company, makes billions of dollars, billions, but they pay to the NNPC because NNPC is supposedly the one who went out into an agreement with them in the 49% ownership deal that they have with the Nigerian government. And these NNPC monies never get to the Nigerian government. And they have not disclosed to the public since 2015 how much they deposit in dividends to the Nigerian government, because the money doesn't go into the account of the Nigerian government. These are discoveries. I have several of those discoveries. I have located huge amount of money in Nigeria that would it's mind-blowing enough for Nigerians if they really want change to change the current terrible situation of the country. It's mind-blowing that we ought to be having excess revenue every year, no matter our budget. Let's say we're doing $21 trillion naira budget every year. We would be able to fund that budget and still have from 2 to 3 trillion naira left carry over to the next year. I found this because yes.
Okay, you have painted one side of the story. Okay, now assuming that these things are done, I'm talking about the accountability from the side of the exploration, the oil companies and everything, and the money gets to the government. There's a second part to it. A lot of people have said we do not have that capacity to hold political leaders to account for these monies that have been received. Especially, some people have even called out the governors of the Niger Delta and saying, what have they done with the huge resources that have been received over the years?
They're right to ask this question, because most of these resources have been stolen, both by the government at the center and Niger Delta governors. You would think that the amount of money that's gone into the Niger Delta region, even at 13% revenue that they get extra from the region, some of them could have transformed Niger Delta region to, into a mini Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, as we like to use analogically. So the governors have become billionaires. It is even the militants who came and said they want to fight for Niger Delta region only ended up becoming billionaires. Niger Delta region has remained poor, impoverished, and devastated by oil exploration. So, but you have a great manager of uh, resources that's in charge of the country, in charge of oil exploration, regulating the activities of both these companies, and the crimes committed, the economic crimes committed by the governors, we would have caught them by now. But the
Okay.
EFCC.
That's this is interesting because okay, this is interesting because Nigeria is a federation and there are limits to the powers of the president. You want to be the president, and there are certain things you cannot do. For example, you cannot order the arrest of a serving governor as the president. What ways would you think you can't use if given the opportunity by Nigerians to tackle this?
You can order the arrest of a governor. That's true. But that law also has to change. The idea that one person or a group of persons can be stealing with immunity, and immunity, stealing with impunity and then rely on legal immunity is something that has to be changed. But you know that an average president of Nigeria loves to be Minister of Petroleum Resources, right?
Will you be one?
No. If I have to be a minister, if I'm hungry for ministerial position, I'll go for Minister of Education. You understand? But that's even illegal. You're already the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. You are the Minister General of the Federation. Why go for that? It tells you that these other characters are petty-minded individuals, so only interested in what is big in the country, which is the lucrative and the big corruption sources for them. So what I will do is that I will work closely with whomever is the minister to ensure the most important thing is for the monies that are realized from oil to go into the consolidated account controlled by the federal government. That's number one. Until that is resolved, you are not ready to curb corruption. The EFCC cannot arrest the government because of immunity, but the EFCC can prevent monies being stolen from the country, because there's also, apart from the EFCC, another body that tracks funds at the federal level. I forget the name now. The fraud unit, that checks on, which used to be with the EFCC, but now they've been separated from the EFCC. The intelligence, I think, is the intelligence unit. Track. So you can actually stop some governors from you can stop governors from transferring money outside of the country if you're doing your real job. And you can tell, because money has the money of today has got ways to track them. You can't just, if we want to do the real job, it's easy. We need to employ technology to ensure that our money just don't get taken out anyhow. That's why I was saying that it's stupid for anyone who introduced e-Naira to then turn around a few months later to be printing Naira. Because part of the ways these monies are filtered away or stolen is through paper money, paper transactions. But if you have solid e-transactions everywhere, every penny you make or are spent by these governors can be tracked. So if you went into a private account, you can easily get to know almost immediately and ensure that those don't happen. The EFCC may not be able to arrest the governor, but you can arrest the accountant general. You can arrest anybody that's handling money. They don't have immunity. But all these bodies are compromised. That is why we keep saying, not only do we need a new president that knows what he's doing, we also need brand new manpower resources in the country that will do what is right by the Nigerian people. And whatever the federal government is able to do is enough to stop corruption. But when the federal government is in bed with all these governors, because they are all the same, there's no way you can stop corruption.
Okay.
So,
all right.
That's proof.
All right. This is still Insights on Citizen FM 93.7. You can join the conversation by calling us on 0903 222 9797. You can also call us on 0808 22 22037. Or you can call us on 0818 2222205. Don't forget you can join us on our live stream on YouTube. Just type in Citizen FM 93.7 and you will be part of the show. My guest is Umoette Sowore, presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress. And we are looking at the lessons of our experience over the years as an oil-producing nation. Now that the exploration officially has kicked off in the northern part of the country, are there lessons to learn? What can we do? Sowore, before we move to one or two other issues, because I can't have you on my program and not talk politics. But before we go to that, after all this long grammar that we have spoken since the program began, Nigerians will be interested in having fuel in the filling stations, having access to this product at the end of the day. Over the years, we've had refineries, we've had this, but the challenge of having this product available across the country at an affordable rate has always been a challenge. What are your plans towards that?
Well, why is it a challenge? It's because our refineries that have been strategically located in different regions in the country are not working. So if we had a functioning refinery in Kaduna that is able to supply the entire northwest and northeast region, why would it be a problem finding fuel? It is because to get fuel or petrol, as we call it in Nigeria, every part of it must come from Lagos, almost, because there's Lagos ports from which there's import. Lagos has traffic jams on a daily basis. I just came from Lagos. You can't get anywhere. So there's that bottleneck. The second bottleneck is that you're also dealing with those who are manipulating the price of oil. My oil marketers are largely the ones holding oil because they know December is coming. And they want to force higher prices on travelers. They know Nigerians cannot do without going back to their villages and their cities and towns to celebrate Christmas and New Year. So this is being done lightly, again, in collusion with these Aso Rock people involved in the oil business to ensure that you suffer in December. They're just hoarding. And also, we also just got out of maximum flooding of several Nigerian states that cut off this. But the solution, so that I don't keep telling you the problems, we all know it, is to make the refineries work. 4 of them. Nigeria couldn't make 4 refineries work of his own. Warri, Kaduna, and I think there's one in Port Harcourt. Yes, we couldn't make those refineries work, but we are very generous to invest $2.5 billion in a man that's building a refinery and got bankrupt in the course of doing it. That's Dangote. We're helping him to build his refinery. $2.5 billion was invested in that.
Okay, Sowore, will you just a moment? We seem to have a call. There's somebody who wants to just hold on. There is a call coming in. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Lawrence.
Good morning.
Good morning to Sowore. Is David calling from Central Area?
Okay, David, please go ahead.
Okay. I want to say that I'm very happy each time you bring Sowore into the program because, number one, he's a very vibrant, young presidential aspirant, and I know how infighting has been. In fact, we like him. But coming to the issue of oil exploration in the north, you see, on a normal day, we in Nigeria, or we citizens of Nigeria, would have been glad and happy that there is a discovery or there is a new discovery of an oil in another region because we know who benefit from it. But our story in this country is different. Once any mineral resources is discovered in any of the region, that start the beginning of that region suffering, either by insecurity or by...
Are you still hearing him? Because I can't hear him.
Yes. So,
hello?
Hello, okay, I think we've lost him there. So you can continue, Sowore.
Yeah. So I don't know where I stopped. I just want you to kind of refresh, because I was talking about leadership that can fix all these problems. Because people keep asking, keep asking us these questions, like, oh, you should remove subsidy, And I tell Nigerians anytime I have the opportunity to tell them that the argument about subsidy is a tired argument.
Mm-hmm.
Tired. Reason is simple. We have removed subsidy from diesel. Is it available and affordable to Nigerians? Has it not driven a lot of companies out of Nigeria because they can't afford to be doing business buying diesel? An average, I think, gallon of diesel is 1,000 naira, right? That means if you have a 60 kVA generator to power it overnight, just overnight from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., you're likely to spend 50,000 naira. So which company are you going to establish in Nigeria today as a small business owner that can survive with 50,000 per night use of diesel? You still have to repair the generator itself. You have to move the diesel. You have to have an agreement with someone who brings the diesel to your place. Sometimes the diesel sellers come with 40 liters, so that's 50,000. So that's not the way to run a country. And I'm very vehement about this. You are not subsidizing kerosene. What is the advantage it has brought to you? You are not subsidizing gas. There's still gas scarcity in the country. These guys are just running a try and error country. And I am saying, because I'm not afraid to say it, that a different kind of leadership can emerge that will change the course of history of Nigeria and make people not suffer the way we are suffering. As I'm talking to you, I don't know how people are surviving in this country. The only problem I see, which I talk about, is that Nigeria seems to have a Stockholm syndrome. We like to suffer. It's the same people that make you suffer, your former governors, your former senators, that you prefer over people with fresh ideas who can take you out of this situation and make your life easy by providing electricity, providing fuel, providing you jobs, keeping your universities open, sending your children to school, and providing hospitals in your neighborhood. You don't like us. They don't like those of us who tell the truth. We don't like those of us who want to change things. You are more comfortable with the guys who lie to you, or some of them that don't even talk to you at all.
Okay, I think let's just take one issue in politics before we go. We have less than 2 minutes to go, and it's about 93 days before your fate and that of 17 others will be determined by Nigerians, talking about the 2023 elections. What's your confidence level in the electoral process so far?
Oh, I'll be the last person to tell you that I trust the electoral process, because it has already been rigged against Nigerian people. People are already talking about the electoral voters register.
Are you already giving up?
No, I'm not giving up. The reason why we participate is to show to people that you can overcome this if you follow the right candidates, vote differently. Because if all of us go out and vote, and you vote for Showore, and they are counting everywhere you're getting Showore, no matter how many fake voters they have, the result will reflect who you voted for and you stand with. But we know also, as a function of reality, that the Electoral Commission and those who rig election are in the same WhatsApp group. So. But what we know that we push for
that may be a little bit uncharitable.
Tradition itself.
Okay, go ahead. Oops.
In this process.
Okay. I think we're having. Hello, can you hear us now? Okay.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, just let's have your final words as we round off, please.
Well, my final words are not final until we get it right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, I think that's how far we can take Umoette Show, a presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress. Thank you for your intervention so far. We were discussing the experiences we've had as a nation over the years when it comes to oil exploration. Now that the oil exploration has gone to some other part of the country, the northern part of the country. And so we've had as our guest Omoyele Sowore, who is the presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress. Insight will return tomorrow with another very interesting topic. Please don't go away. By 11 o'clock, News on the Hour will be up. And after that, Phil will be standing by for Battle of Opinion. So I'm sure it's going to be another interesting time ahead. My name is Lawrence Umoette. Do have a beautiful time ahead.